Hello and welcome to Lightbox, the official wanimate podcast. Vodcast? Yeah, I've got to correct that. But the official podcast of wanimate, the West Australian Animation Association. Whether you're an aspiring animator, a seasoned professional, or simply a fan of the magical world of animation, you've come to the right place. My name is Tanya Beeson, and maybe you would like to see me. Hi.
Hey.
And this is David.
Hello.
Lindsay.
Hi.
And our special guest tonight, Amber. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, Amber.
Cool.
Yeah.
And we'll be your guide on this monthly journey into the heart of the animation industry in Western Australia. So each month, Lightbox will bring you the latest and greatest in animation news, from upcoming films and shows to industry discussions that we will inspire and empower the talented animators who call Western Australia home. We also delve into the creative processes and challenges faced by our local animators as they work tirelessly to bring their unique visions to life. So buckle up and get ready to be amazed as we explore the vibrant, ever-evolving world of West Australian animation. This is Lightbox, and we're just getting started. We wish to acknowledge and honour the traditional custodians of the land we are streaming from, the Wadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. We recognise and celebrate their enduring culture, the rich tapestry of Indigenous arts, and the invaluable contributions they make to the vibrancy and cultural diversity of this city and region.
Before we dive into today's content, we'd also like to issue a quick advisory warning. While our channel is generally suitable for most audiences, there may be occasions where we delve into topics or showcase content that might not be appropriate for younger viewers. We strive to create engaging and enjoyable content for everyone, but please be advised some material may not be suitable for children. So parental discretion is advised, and we encourage you to review the content before sharing it with younger audiences. Our goal is to provide a safe and enjoyable viewing experience for all, and we appreciate your understanding and support in this regard.
Excellent. Onto the side of the screen, and hello and welcome, and hope everyone's doing well. It's been an interesting month in animation, so I'm super glad we can have a chat, and we've got some people totally viewing us right now. Live viewers, that's amazing. Yeah.
My God.
Yes.
Hey, Frank.
Well,
Hey, Frank.
Hold on, I'll turn on the comments so I can actually feed that through. There we go. Hi, Frank. Hey. So, welcome. And yes, so first off, the cab is the 3:30 animation competition is in full swing. It is too late to enter. It is too late to start
back out.
films. It's too late to back out. You're in to the end.
That's it.
However, from all accounts of people that I've spoken to, and some of the films that I have seen in their partial progress, it's looking amazing. And the judges are ready and raring to go for when the animations are sent in. As usual, thank you to all our sponsors on the 3:30 animation competition. We couldn't get it done without them. So amazing. Thank you. And thank you for, all the donations and the prizes that these guys can win. So super excited.
Amber, you brought your fan club, and Frank, you've got a great question there, but I think if we can hold off to the end on that one, because that's going to be an interesting one if anyone has any thoughts on that.
Nice. Yep. Yeah, good question. That is something we definitely got to remember that at the end. Maybe towards the end, you ask that again if you can, please, Frank. So. Right, on to the next slide. Let's talk about that. Our special guest, it's Amber. Amber, welcome. Amber Stacey is a West Australian animator who's been all over the place and currently promoting a film that has been accepted into the San Diego Children's Film Festival. So super awesome news. Congratulations.
Thank you. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Tell us about Stan and Sven. How did you come up with the idea, and what was the inspiration behind creating a stop motion film out of felt?
Well, the second half of that question is a loaded question, really, with how I came about stop motion. So basically, I come from a background in musical theatre and dance, which I spent my whole life doing. So I very much appreciate your poster in the background there, David. Yeah.
Nice.
I was, planning on doing that with my life, and in my early 20s I had a bit of a shift with my life and my situation, and I reevaluated everything and thought, okay, how else can I be creative, which kind of led me down a graphic design and motion graphics pathway. So my initial plan was I always loved animation, and so I wanted to explore that further and put all my kind of acting experience into character animation. But at the time when I was looking for courses in Perth, I couldn't really find anything specifically that I wanted, and I ended up at Central Tech doing graphic design and working my way through to then ending up at Curtin and doing my double major in creative advertising, graphic design and digital design. So that kind of entered me into this whole new kind of world and industry. And for the last 11 plus years, I've been working in amongst ad agencies and small boutique creative studios, in-house for disability and aged care, and also event companies. So I was doing a lot of motion graphics for 2 event companies in Perth before I moved to Melbourne, and just kind of expanded the wings a little bit in Melbourne. I started teaching online for Curtin whilst working full time, and it was through that kind of sparked a little something inside of me again. I was starting to feel really dead creatively, and I just felt like I had so much more to give and I didn't really know how to explore it. So I looked at RMIT and enrolled into the Masters of Animation, Games and Interactivity, and I had no idea what to expect. I was like, I don't know anything of what I'm doing. I haven't done a BA in this. I haven't really played with software. All I really knew was Cinema 4D from motion graphics. So I thought I'd just give it a crack. I have a really big interest, I guess, in textures and lighting design, and I think that comes from my theatre background and that tactility. And I started out looking at game design stuff and came up with a lovely little game concept, which was a hybrid 2.5D platform kind of concept, and using materials in unconventional ways. And that developed into exploring stop motion. That way, because I couldn't program, I knew that with a stop motion film I could at least finish something and make something completed. And so I just tested it out originally with a little story that my partner, who also wrote Stan and Sven, wrote Sultan T. Sloth during COVID lockdowns, and it's about a little sloth that's isolated in his home. And so I created a series of vignettes with that, and I wanted to explore putting a stop motion character into a completely flat 2D environment. So everything he interacts with is just 2D. And then the idea with Stan and Sven was to create it in an analog form, so still having that 2D kind of essence, but in a physical way. They kind of bounced off each other with the concept, testing one with the inquiry being digital and one in a more physical format. So my partner wrote this story, which I started drawing the pages for the children's book, and I was after a project for my Studio 3 project, and I decided why not steal it for my actual project for uni. So I turned it into an animation first, and I think it's worked out well, because now we're able to promote the book with it, and I'll be able to finish the book once I wrap up my degree this week, which is very exciting after doing it time for the last 5 years. So I've finally reached the end stage. But yeah, so the story of Stan and Sven, it's the story of a little robot, and he's feeling quite sad. And his best friend Sven, who's a loving, short little alien who decides to go on a mission to cheer his friend up. He can't understand why Stan is so sad all the time. And so Sven thinks that the best way of doing this is by making Stan do lots and lots of fun things and keeping him really busy. But he soon learns that it isn't quite working, and he feels confused about what to do. And it's in that moment that things begin to change, and Sven learns that all along, all Stan needed was his friend by his side, and just someone there to simply listen and just keep him company. So, we all have times when we feel sad sometimes and we don't quite know how to feel better. And I think that's what makes this story quite special, in that although it was written for children, there's a message for everyone. And it allows us to remember that it's okay to not be okay. And sometimes people just need us to be there and listen. And yes, my Stan and Sven was part of my master's at RMIT. So that was my final studio project before embarking on my exegesis, which I'm wrapping up at the moment, and talking about handcrafted animation methods and the importance and value that they still hold in modern day filmmaking, due to their tactility and the different emotions that they evoke in audiences, with arguments that the latest 3D animations are all kind of just the same production processes and blending into the same thing now. So I've been sunk very deep in that over the last few weeks. But yeah, the story of Stan and Sven communicates quite a dense topic, but through a very simple and novel way for children to kind of understand. When designing the animation, I really wanted it to feel as though the two characters had come to life out of a children's storybook, and it was kind of inspired by the old pop-up books to give that 2D effect. And the colour design was kind of there to reflect the mood of Stan. So when we think of colour, we think of fun, and it was important to kind of show what the world feels like to Stan without any fun. So, when we get sad, it's hard for us to see the fun and the colour around us. So the simple black and white drawings kind of help to see things from Stan's perspective, and that he feels he has nothing to be happy about. So my dear friend May from my master's course actually co-animated the project with me. I was extremely heavily pregnant at the time and had been really struggling to get through my semester. I had lots of complications and hospital visits throughout the first half of my semester. And I remember just one night, fleetingly, I joked to her about helping me out with the production process of it. I'd done all the pre-production work. And then she kind of, was asking me questions and was a little bit curious. And I was like, oh, okay, well, now I'm being serious. Like, do you want to actually help? And so before I know it, she was camping out at my house, and all day, every day from 8 a.m. to midnight, we were animating this little film over 6 weeks to completely get it finished. Obviously Denise was there guiding the way as well, since it was her story, and I also have a friend overseas, Luca, who's been helping me with a lot of music composition and sound work on my different projects. And so yeah, the idea with this one as well was to kind of combat and work through some of the challenges that I'd learned previously from Sultan T. Sloth. For this one, for example, they have magnets on the bottom of their feet, and the set design was used with whiteboards underneath some white paper, just to try and give me a little bit more stability moving them around. Because of the lightness of the felt, it's very hard to make them balance. And over the summer break, I was looking at rigging options and equipment online, and everyone seemed to be sold out. And I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? So yeah, I tried this magnet. I mean, it wasn't foolproof. They still had issues, but it certainly made a very, very big difference. And then what I didn't consider was the fact that the whiteboards on the floor weren't actually 100% flat. And so they moved around. And I remember shooting this whole scene with Yi, and we played it back, and the whole background, all the props were just shifting, and we just wanted to cry. We're like, oh no, like after all this time. And I just thought, what are we going to do? So, we had lots of different pieces of foam underneath this whiteboard at different levels just to try even it out. And there was a lot of post-production work from Yi's side. We worked with Magic and After Effects a little bit to mask certain areas to try and stop it from shifting. It's not 100% perfect, but the outcome is vastly improved upon what it was after the initial scenes that were shot. The lightness of the puppets, it just makes them awfully tricky when trying to move them, because if you try to move the arm, the whole body would shift. And the same with Sultan, except I kind of improved the actual armature rig for these puppets. So there's a bit more body to these guys, unlike Sultan, who has no legs at all.
So how are they constructed? You've got
so I just made handmade armatures with wire and putty, and needle felted around them. The problem with Sultan is that his legs are so short. Trying to do a warp cycle is like impossible.
That's a conversation to be had with Lindsay.
Yes, I've had a few experiences with bipedal puppets and stop motion.
Oh gosh, it is not fun.
So lots of blue tack for Lego animation, and when I was studying in 1990 at Swinburne, the famous Swinburne of Melbourne, I had a sort of homemade armature puppet made out of solder wire, which I wrapped up in foam and bits of DAS, if I remember rightly, and my own hair for its own hair. And I had it walking around on sand. And I was like one shot into that thinking, oh my God, what have I done? And it turned out the answer was really quite simple. It was just simple. You built the whole set on polystyrene, get your character to have little spiky things poking out, and then it just sticks.
Yep.
Lots of that, because you're like, don't breathe on the sand. But I think in hindsight, it's like Aardman puppets. And even when Aardman does CGI, they make a big point of deliberately putting fake fingerprints in there to make it feel tactile. So, yeah.
I remember somebody telling me about the polystyrene after the fact.
Polystyrene and stop motion are just natural bedfellows. Polystyrene has so many useful uses in the sense that you can kind of carve stuff out of it. You can also stick it on things and layer stuff on it. You can stick stuff on it. For sound effects, the noisiest substance on earth, can't hear the sand, just rub it on polystyrene. It solves everything. Cures you of environment, destroys humanity. It's great.
You mentioned the backgrounds. In terms of your background, you went for that white paper backgrounds with pure stark white, and you've already answered that question for me of the kind of why you did it in terms of that stylistic design choice. You did it aside from shifting around, pose any problems. I remember the style being used for like the old 1970s Paddington series in terms of animation.
It's a trope from the 70s, yeah.
Yeah, for Sultan, mostly Paddington played a big influence with that, because the look of Paddington looks as though it is out of a child's storybook, and they've got the 2D characters and illustrations around. But Paddington himself still interacts with physical 3D props. And so I wanted to eliminate that for Sultan and see what I could do with him interacting with just flat props, which turned out to be way more challenging than I anticipated. And it meant that having to animate each frame, every second frame, I was putting a green card in between Sultan's body to duplicate it. into 2 sequences and then overlap them in Toon Boom and have the 2D animation in between. So that's the bulk of my exegesis, talking about salt.
Nice.
And then all of a sudden, I'm willing to bet you were thinking, why did I give them fuzzy edges?
I was so excited with the first scene. He's eating a bowl of popcorn, and the actual animation itself worked out so well with the timing. And I remember compositing him out, putting him into this 2D scene, and I made the popcorn bowl, and I went to put it in and went, oh no, how do I actually put it behind his arm? I was like, oh, what have I done? So I had to reshoot the whole thing and experiment with that. And yeah, that was a nightmare. At least Afghanistan, I mean, in a physical sense, it wasn't nearly as time consuming as what Sultan was. But then I forgot simple things like the bike scene where they're both riding a 2D flat bike with, trying to balance 2 puppets on a very thin piece of card and making it look like it's moving at the same time. I was like, oh no.
Well, you make your background move.
Well, I did, but I still had to have the bike standing. So that was the challenging part. And so we'd move the wheels and then Yi would push the background behind and then we'd move it again. But yeah, trying to get the physics of them balancing on that bike together and changing their facial expressions throughout without it falling over was fun.
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I doing this?
I think we've all done that in stop motion. But it's the prize that keeps you going, what it comes out at the end.
That's it. The outcome's been really rewarding. I wasn't actually going to enter it into any film festivals. I didn't know if it was any good, I guess.
It's good.
Talk about that. Talk about the
right.
San Diego Children's Film Festival and your plan to get there.
Yep. So it's been having lots of success internationally, which has been so incredibly humbling and rewarding. And then a few weeks ago, I woke up at 6 a.m. and was reading my emails, and there's this one from the San Diego Children's Film Festival, which I didn't enter, so I was very confused, and I thought it was a scam. And they asked if they could screen it at Comic-Con as part of the Children's Festival. And then I think I did about 5 takes reading that again, very doped out at 6 a.m. Wait, at Comic-Con? I was like, San Diego Comic-Con? I was like, really, that Comic-Con? I was like, no.
That's good.
And then I had to read like the rest of the emails. Oh, this is legit. Like, okay. And they asked me if I'd come over and do a Q&A after the screening. And so, yeah, I mean, I can't say no to that. But at the same time, I was like, okay, well, how am I going to get there? It's been a really rough few years for everyone. And, with COVID being in Melbourne, we were hit quite financially. Our wedding was cancelled overseas, an 8-week trip around Europe. I lost my full-time job.
Wow.
And then to top it off, my baby was preemie and I got stranded in Victoria. And so, I was kind of stuck there indefinitely. Through the NICU stage and not knowing when I could come back to Perth with him. So it's been quite a journey, and this opportunity arose and I just thought, I can't let this go. Like, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I'd have a short film showcasing at film festivals around the world, let alone being invited to like this dream event of mine to attend. People try for years to get badges to this event, and here I am being offered the professional one. I was like, all right. So, I came up with the GoFundMe for it, and I just thought, what have I got to lose? Absolutely nothing. I'll just give it a crack and try and get there as much as possible. It's the perfect ending, I think, to my degree, and wrapping up this week. And I've been working through my dissemination and looking at different conferences to, enter my paper into and things. And I was like, wow, San Diego, let's do it. I have a GoFundMe up, which will help get Amber to San Diego. It's got lots of details in there. And in the last few days,
we'll put the info for the GoFundMe into the the doobly-doo, and totally, hopefully you'll get, over the line. And if you do get over the line, can you smuggle me over in the luggage?
Yeah, I wish I could take Yi so much. I mean, I couldn't have done this animation without her. So I have a lot to be thankful for that. And so I definitely plan on taking a photo of her and taking shots around Comic-Con with her. And I'm also planning on taking the puppets as well, and kind of continuing that journey of Stan and Sven, and getting Sven to do all these fun things around San Diego with Stan, and him looking absolutely miserable. So yeah, I'm absolutely pumped for it. I'm positive that I'm going to be there. And yeah, just the idea of talking about my work over in America, and the background behind the film and things, it's mind-blowing. Yeah, I'm completely stunned by it, to be honest.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. It's an awesome achievement and a fun film. So for those people who are wanting to see Stan and Sven, wanimate is having a screening, a wanimate screening of locally produced animations, of which Stan and Sven will be part of that screening. So you can potentially come along to that screening during Revelation and see Stan and Sven in all their glory. So,
yeah,
sounds good.
And for those of you who can't see it at Revelation, after it's finished the film festival circuit, I'll definitely have it online, so it's accessible for everyone.
Awesome. It's very cool. Well, congratulations, and thank you for talking about it, and good luck with your endeavors in terms of getting over that.
It's always exciting.
Thank you. And thanks so much for having me on. Like, it's
that's all right.
A great pleasure.
So Frank has said there's lots of laurels there, and I've just said official selection: Atlanta Children's Film Festival, Berlin Schwartz Award. Nice.
Oh, very prestigious.
Cool. New York International Women's Festival. So cool. So girls in animation, yay!
Yes. Power to the ladies.
Excellent.
Indeed.
Well, if you'd like to stick around and get involved in our conversation as we go along, you're more than welcome to. We're going to duck into the news now and talk about what's going on out there in the world. Cool. Let's talk about some stuff. So, big news for those people who are big sci-fi fans. J. Michael Straczynski of She-Ra fame.
Fair enough.
Yeah, original She-Ra, not the reboot. Announced on Twitter a Babylon 5 animated film through Warner Brothers Animation and Warner Brothers Film. It's already in the can and apparently out soon. So super exciting. A lot of the original voices are back, and
most that are still alive, because there's been a lot of the cast members that passed on.
I said a lot, not all.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It would be hard to get some of the voices.
Yes.
We will miss them. Cool. So I'll do the next one, and you can do the one after Lynn's. Okay. Dave. So DreamWorks Animation has laid off 33 staff, about 2% of its workforce. So more people being cut in the industry. There's with the current stuff going on with the writer's strike over there, it's going to be interesting to see the impact on animation, considering a lot of the writing for animation is front-loaded. So those things that are still being produced had all their writing done. I'm curious to see where it's going to hit. Maybe next season, in the next seasons of things, and with directors talking about striking and actors as well. So it's looking like there's a lot going on in Hollywood. I realize the industry is not all Hollywood, but yeah, it's definitely impacting places. And DreamWorks laying off 33 staff is fairly typical of a big company who want to get their bottom line above that thing for the
Is this
shareholders.
related to the writing strike, or is it just related to streaming in general? Or what?
I tied them both together, but no, there's no solid evidence of that. Yeah.
It's what's been happening across the industry for a lot of it. I mean,
I hear dark rumors of Disney being on the rocks at the moment. It feels like the early 80s again for Disney.
Disney's done a fair few cuts and
overplayed their hand is the impression I had. So
considering their class actually was strikes in the 40s, late 40s was a big deal for animators in terms of getting a reasonable wage back then. We might start seeing a turnaround for especially people in the American industry, which doesn't really trickle down to us, but there's the occasional thing. Well, people who are doing color and cleanup in remote studios, like
true.
This one I didn't have too much background on, unfortunately, but animated space comedy, Lesbian Space Princess, has joined sci-fi thriller Monolith in being greenlit for production through South Australia's Film Lab's New Voices initiative. So, Australians animated science fiction, sounds good to me.
Lesbians.
Yes.
It sounds cool. I'm super excited to see what they do with it. It's got a nice sort of classy super style. If you enjoyed Rugrats, it's got that look about it. We'll see how they go. And any sort of animation coming out of Australia is brilliant. Bluey can't have everything, as much as I love Bluey. But cool. Let's talk about what's coming out next month. We know lots of things. Across the Spider-Verse, David.
It's starting on Thursday, so fingers crossed on this. This is Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. So the second one, or the third in the trilogy, is already coming to us. So let's hope it keeps up the work that was done in Into the Spider-Verse, because that was a fantastic film and sets things up nicely.
Groundbreaking.
Yes.
Frank's asking questions.
It's both, Frank.
Yes, it's a factory, and yes, we can't deny both sides of what we do. I like to tell people I'm an artist, but more organized.
It's both.
And that's not always true of animators, but yeah.
So coming up else as well, we've got Netflix, The World Can't Tear Me Down on 9th of June, which seems to be very much kind of a punk animation style, and just a guy reevaluating his life through therapy. It looks interesting. That definitely tickled my interest. June 15th, we've got Elemental releasing in the cinemas as well. 19th.
Pixar's animation Elemental. Yeah. So I'm curious to see how Elemental goes, because it's been a really up and down period for Pixar, and they haven't been, at the pinnacle that they have been in recent years.
And the trailer doesn't really give too much away, so it's a nice little mood piece, but you can't really tell how's it going to be from that alone.
We'll see. It's an interesting concept, and the animation will look lovely as we can see. So
Claire can't wait. Cool.
Of course. I'll definitely be seeing it. So okay, so Not Quite Narwhal, which is based off a children's book series. It's cute. the animation is 3D, and it's a really interesting choice considering the illustration style. The storybook is so nice. It's if you have a look at the difference between the two, like the book design is leaps and bounds ahead, and sort of loses. As a 2D animator, I'm kind of, why did they not do it in the style of the book? But yeah. But yeah, cute little unicorn under the sea.
22nd, we got Skull Island coming out again on Netflix, which is just really doing quite well for anyone watching animation. For Adventures of King Kong.
David and I will have many debates over Kong versus Godzilla, and each being a fan of the other. So we'll see how my heroic giant monkey takes down.
We need to get rid of
your annoying lizard. Yeah.
We need to get rid of
annoying radioactive lizard.
Yeah. Flash metaphor for whatever Japan's going through at the time.
King Kong might limp out of that, but he might have a few scorched eyebrows by the end of it or something.
He won the first one, but and kind of technically lost the second one, so it's all down to the third fight.
Nice.
Spoke to an animator from Elemental. They went to the staff screening and were all annoyingly upbeat. Oh, well, that's good.
God. Ooh, that's a good.
Good to know. Nimona, graphic novel. Once again, really nice style on the graphic novel. I'm super keen to see the animated series, fantasy series, Battleship Ginger, and it's going to be fun. The graphic novel is great, one of my favorites. And if you
the writer of that is.
You put me on the spot. You know I never remember names.
Yeah, sorry. I thought you might for this one. Was it Indy Stevenson?
Indy Stevenson, so yeah. Indy.
The She-Ra, the recent She-Ra.
Yeah, from the recent She-Ra creator. So there we go. Wow. See, we can tie these things together. We're professionals.
All connected.
Yes, that was deliberate. Yes. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And talk about Exhumed.
Yeah. Okay. So pop-up cinema at the Liberty. End of this month. There's a lot for any film fans out there to look forward to, but definitely one of the or a few of the showings that we'll be interested in for animation: Heavy Metal, Akira, and The Iron Giant. So that's three really strong pieces right there. And
I can admit that I have not seen Heavy Metal. The other two I'll definitely go rewatch. But,
I haven't seen Heavy Metal on the big screen. So yeah,
not on the big screen. I've only seen it on VHS back in the day.
Ooh, nice.
The only way to watch old movies.
Iron Giant. Oh, that's so tempting.
Well, Iron Giant and Akira is a pretty good double, I would think.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it can't be done as a double. And most of them only have one showing. So just take a look at the website and see I think tickets are already on sale. So, see what tickles your fancy, because there's a lot of good stuff there.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. The great debate. We nerd out so you don't have to. So, we've started.
Cup of tea, Amber.
Yeah, we've started this thing where we'll just start talking about stuff. In previous episodes, it's been AI, or it's been discussing the industry, Matt Groening's TV series, and now we're going to talk animated Spider-Man. And Dave pitched really hard for this.
Oh, look, I just wanted to go for a brief history of Spider-Man. By brief history, I mean 60 years
with Across the Spider-Verse coming out this week, it's well worth looking at possibly the most animated animated superhero cartoon from what was it, 1967?
Yep.
The first series.
A new one coming out this year.
That late? Wow. Okay, I thought it would have been earlier.
So So appeared in 1967. It's the one that we all know from the theme, Spider-Man. Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. I'm not singing it.
It's got the best theme in it, that's for sure.
Oh, it gives the Batman theme a run for its money, that's for sure.
Batman. Come on.
I don't know, it's neck and neck.
See, if it came down to it, I'm gonna with the 66 Batman series as opposed to the 67.
He did have a better
series,
car,
but it's got the best theme of any of the Spider-Man movies or TV shows came out since it.
True. So probably one of the big notes that it's worth knowing for is that it's producer during the second and third season, so 68 and 70, was Ralph Bakshi before he went on to do more independent work.
Really?
Yeah. So
okay, now I'm interested. Yep.
Well, yes. Interestingly enough, you notice there's actually a tonal change between the first and the second season. Ralph Bakshi being the consummate non-spender of money, so to speak. If I put out a whole bunch of Marvel animated villains and push them off to the side in favor of a bunch of generic things that he'd developed for previous animations and reusing animations over and over again. Yeah, it was very, very cost effective. Penny pincher is exactly the words I was looking for, Frank. That's where my brain was going, and it's all gone.
As we all know, as we've all made films or been involved in the making of films, every audience around the planet always appreciates, I'm so glad they took the budget out of this one. It's a much better film for it. Yeah, they cut corners in all the wrong places. Excellent work, whoever that was.
50 years on, there's the YouTube video clips showing how the repeated animation.
Just the thing that really sticks with me is the original intro to Spider-Man, and there's a scene where he swings through and catches a girder as he's swinging, and the motion just does not look right.
There's no inertia there whatsoever. It just stops and continues through.
It's like ease in, stop, and then ease out, continue swing. It's so awkward to watch, and I just love it.
Oh man!
But you know, this is the guy that went on to create Wizards, so
yeah.
Very cool. So after that, we've got a couple of live-action adaptations with the Nicholas Hammond live-action series. Love Nicholas Hammond. The Spider-Man of my childhood in the late 70s.
Would have been the first Spider-Man movie I saw, so yeah.
Yeah, so it was a series of mini series and telemovies.
That's right.
It was actually a series, but it got released as movies here and on VHS here.
So if you're interested, Nicholas Hammond is going to be at Supernova. Supernova, you owe us for advertising, thanks. So it's worth potentially going up and asking him about his years as Spider-Man. It's very cool. Very cool. Spider-Woman is...
you missed one. 1978. Japanese Spider-Man.
Sorry. Yes.
So Spider-Man as a dirt bike, Peter Parker as a dirt bike rider. Sorry, it wasn't called Peter Parker. I forgot the name. My apologies. Complete with a Super Sentai sort of like feeling to it, and a mech Spider-Man had a giant robot with him. So beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Absolute madness, but yeah.
When is Supernova? It's the end of June, Frank. So, yeah, and Supernova, Kevin Eastman is going to be there. So, yeah. So if you're interested in seeing animation heroes, the guy who created the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or one of the two guys who created the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I'll be there with my original comic books going. Yes. To Spider-Man 81. Now, David. Oh, sorry, we missed Spider-Woman as well. Now.
Yeah.
Spider-Woman in 79 just was animated take on. It's a very slow-moving thing. It's Jessica Drew in her classic uniform. Sort of the recognized Spider-Woman form, but yeah, it's just riffing really on Spider-Man. It's not really delving too deep into Spider-Woman lore compared to the comic books, which she's basically a girl Spider-Man in that series, but it has some creepy monsters in that animated series, the Spider-Woman. Some crazy reverse Spider-Man, reverse arachnid people, and yeah, so it's a little dark for an animated series from the early 80s. Now, David, I have a question. You've got in your list a Spider-Man 1981, followed by Spider-Man and his.
It didn't last. The original 81 didn't last long. I'm just checking up the date on if I've got the date wrong for Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. But the original 81 series only got about a season. It's very close to comic book continuity, but it's also very boring. There's almost, it's adequate. It's completely cromulent as a series. There's nothing to really recommend it. There's nothing against it. It just falls into banality. So yeah, and it didn't really do too well. So they ended up going to Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends in the same year.
His Amazing Friends was the cheesiest, sort of where my knowledge about Spider-Man stops, because I was living in cartoon. So Spider-Man is riffing off and not going into the thing, but team up superheroes was kind of popular, so the Super Friends was out there. So Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, taking away from the Super Friends, they've got Spider-Man and Iceman and a new character that they developed for the animation called Firestar, who has since leapt into the comic books. But yeah, it's known for its inclusion of Iceman and having cold opens. I couldn't help it.
Righto.
Yes, I'm that embarrassing. But yeah, there's a lot of the team stuff. Spider-Man has a transforming hideout, very much like Batman and the Super Friends Justice League setup, and yeah, it's definitely riffing off that, and the cheesiest probably of all these animated series that we're coming across. It's differentiated from the Spidey and His Amazing Friends, which is the latest version of the preschooler series, which is actually quite fun, but we'll talk about that later.
All right, so we're up to 1994, and this is when Marvel's starting to be in trouble. As amazing as that is to think of nowadays, it was actually going broke. So it was looking at some of its properties, and one of the things it was thinking of doing was creating cartoons to try and move some merchandise and toys. So on the cartoons during this era, we had the X-Men launch, And Spider-Man was probably one of the most popular of the series of cartoons that launched at the time. There was also, I know there was a Fantastic Four, and I'm forgetting at least one other in the series that came out around about that time. But 94 Spider-Man, it's probably one that a lot of people know very well, I'd say.
It's the only one I know.
The one you grew up with, so yeah.
I only just recently learned about the mandate, though, that Fox had on the character not being allowed to punch people or enemies, talking about death. So I went back and watched. I was like, wow, he really does just shoot webs and kick people.
Look, there's a lot of studio interference coming up in the near future as well of the animated series, because they even lose his costume at one stage. They couldn't have him in the traditional costume for Spider-Man Unlimited. It's insane.
It's so weird, apparently.
Yeah, but no, this look, it's 94 was great because it was able to tie a lot of the go into a lot of the comic book storylines, including our first introduction into the Spider-Verse with Madam Web turning up. The downside is it was very toyetic. There's a lot of toy design into the design philosophy of this, and you can see it in a few of the things, such as Blade riding around on his action figure accessory bike and stuff like that. It's interesting, but there's some very definitely corporate design takes filtering its way in.
We've lost it.
Oh,
there you go.
So again?
Yeah. Sorry,
Yep.
I just lagged out for a second there at my end. So yeah.
All right.
It's cool.
Yes, it's in Spider merch. Yes, Frank, really is. All right. So next up, we've got Spider-Man Unlimited. So it's 1999. They're starting the Raimi movies in production. So you've got a series starting off with pre-production, first wanting to do the first 20 issues of Spider-Man. Can't do that because Raimi's going to be covering that sort of, or touching on that. Can't do the costume. So they're thinking, okay, maybe we'll do Spider-Man 2099. And they were thinking of maybe casting Oscar Isaac in the voice role. So that's
Interesting.
That's a nice little rumor. What you end up with is a weird piece. Alternative Earth. Okay, first off, they were going to do an Alternative Earth Peter Parker. That Uncle Ben hadn't died, so he kind of lacked the moral fortitude to reject the symbiote costume, the black costume, and actually have Peter Parker becoming Venom. So you get the current Peter Parker and the Alternative Earth Peter Parker at odds with each other in this counter Earth.
Weird.
But that was rejected because no one wants to see multiple Spider-Men anymore because we've had this Clone Saga incident happen and that was bad. So they went with a counter Earth concept, but it'd been taken over by the High Evolutionary. So you have a kind of an Island of Dr. Moreau situation with animals on Alternative Earth and Peter fighting them. And
it's a Spider Ham.
It's Spider. It's not. There's no Spider Ham. This is serious Dr. Moreau animals.
Wow.
Take it like that, and it's a weird one. It is such an odd piece. It's switched to cell animation as well, so it's quite a distinctive style. But there's some charm to it, but I think it's more miss than hit, honestly.
And that's followed up by the new animated series, which basically riffs off the movies.
Yeah, look, it follows on from the movies. It's completely goes for 3D CG animation in 2003, which is not great. not great at all. It's MTV, so it's looking at young adult audiences, which is the first time for Spider-Man. He's at least brought kind of back from working at the Bugle to he's just studying for university. So you get a kind of a younger Spider-Man, and that's going to become a theme going on here. The voice of Spider-Man in this is Neil Patrick Harris. So it's an unusual piece, but yeah, it's a fail. It's an interesting fail. All right. 2008 Spectacular Spider-Man. This is probably the one that a lot of people like, that are Spider-Man fans. It's very well regarded. Greg Weisman he's after Gargoyles and before Young Justice. And it is a very stylishly animated piece. Most of them do, yeah. I think all of them either feature a radioactive spider or a genetically engineered spider, depending which version of the mythos they're going with. So this one brings things back to basics. We've got a young Peter Parker in high school, just starting to think about his future, screwing up and getting back to basics. So he's got money worries, he's got romantic problems, he's trying to keep from being grounded by Aunt May while being a superhero. You've actually got Aunt May in this one, which you didn't have in the previous one because she was considered too old for an MTV crowd. You've got him going through. Yeah, it is. But this one's actually really good because it simplifies things quite well. So most of the villains that you see in the piece are introduced in the first 3, maybe 4 episodes in one form or another. The origin stories are things like either Norman Osborn or Professor Connors, the Lizard, or Tombstone. So it's a really nice, simplistic take on the origin, and it works well. No insect eating, no alternative man of spiders or anything like that. But yeah, that got 2 seasons, and then was the Spider-Man animated series switched over to Disney, while the film rights remained at Sony. So we had to get a new Spider-Man cartoon series going forward, which was Disney taking over from here on in. So 2012, thank you. You've got Ultimate Spider-Man coming up. And this was originally thought of, going through the Ultimate Spider-Man run, but it just turned into young Spider-Man being trained by Nick Fury and introducing a team. So it takes all the basics of Spider-Man being a loner, but try to get through his own life, and introduces him instead as a member of the team with vast resources.
Wish fulfillment for those people who wanted Spider-Man to be part of the MCU.
Yeah. And you've got it's that kind of it is that sort of thing. So you can see the effects of the movies here, and it's also after Teen Titans, so there's a lot more kind of fourth wall breaks and kids mix sort of related to it than you have previously. Which brings us to 2017. Again, they take Peter Parker back to high school, but this time it's a school of science nerds and geniuses, and all the villains are either created by, working in, or attack the high school within the first season or 2 of it. So how the hell that place wasn't shut down, no idea. And Yeah, this with it ends up with all his class being either spider foes or web warriors. So it ties everything in, and it's a bit of a mess, really. But still got 4 seasons, and ended with the couple of major comic book arcs. So you had Spider Island, Superior Spider-Man being done, and Maximum Venom. So major arcs series actually being sorted.
Something I've seen myself because I sit with my nephews and watch it. Spidey and His Amazing Friends preschool series. It's very cute. It includes Peter Parker and Miles and Gwen doing their thing, being amazing Spidey friends. It's in that cutesy style, sort of 3D animated Bob the Builder look to it. Yep. It's fun. It's for preschoolers. You're not getting anything amazing out of it. Probably the closest thing that's also being done is the Young Jedi Adventures. If you've seen any episodes of that, which I've watched a couple. But yes, I've got to watch more adult animation. Otherwise, my brain is going to frazzle.
Yes. Too much primary colors.
Mm-hmm. Leading on to the freshman year and sophomore year, which are sort of MCU projects.
Yeah. Which have been announced coming out this freshman year, I believe is coming out this year. So like to see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how the MCU handles it. I wasn't impressed with What If personally, but I know a lot of people were. We'll see whether they can handle some more animation. It's going to be a prequel series for Peter Parker. So,
does Aardman have a Spidey episode? I don't know.
Sure they've referenced it.
Aardman. Along those lines, check out Aardman's episode in Tales of the Jedi season 2. Is it Tales of the Jedi? No, Star Wars Visions season 2. So good. So good. It's an amazing episode.
Actually, season 2 of Visions is a definite step up. It's well worth a look for anyone interested in animation. There's a few standout episodes there.
I really enjoyed it where I didn't like season 1. So
yeah, and Spy Dancer is incredible.
And I'm the baseline. No. You guys can like what you like. You don't have to follow me. It's fine. In terms of Spider-Man. We've got Across the Spider-Verse coming, of course. So what can we expect, David?
Unfortunately, I see it tomorrow, so I can't tell you how's it going to go. Look, high hopes, absolutely high hopes with this one. The last one was groundbreaking. There's only that's problematic, isn't it? When the last one was so good and expectations are so high, or fall below.
I'm going in with that in mind. I'm going to give it a little bit of slack because the last one was so amazing. Like it was pitch perfect. The best Spider-Man movie of all time.
Yeah. One of the, if not the best superhero film.
Yeah. It's
in hybridity.
So again,
I think on just about every level, production-wise, doing something different. It was the last thing we expected from the MCU. It's very good.
Yeah.
Mind you, the MCU's eaten 80% of the film industry, so I guess if anything innovates in the film industry, it's going to come out through the MCU.
Well, yeah, it doesn't directly tie into the MCU, but there's rumors. Spoilers, people. So we'll see.
Yes.
I think it paved a new pathway for hybridity in filmmaking and more stylized outcomes in a commercial environment. I think story will be, but the trailer looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, it does. It does. A lot of animated movies are riffing off what Spider-Verse did and trying to mimic the style and the feel of things. And not really being successful at it. let's see if.
I mean, arguably, Last Witch was. I think it was doing its own thing as well, but you could see the inspiration there.
Oh, the influence, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for clarifying that, Frank. I was wondering what you were meaning for a second.
Just, I thought he meant to hold his hands while he watched it. So.
Thought it was on steroids or something, but anyway. Yep.
Very, very cool.
So only in the last 5 minutes, because I've never been on this particular platform before, I only just discovered all the comments. So hi to Frank and all the comments while I was talking.
Yes.
He's our permanent audience member.
And actually, with the last 5 minutes, shall we? I really don't know how to go with this. So, do you think that McGowan's resignation will have an impact on the local industry?
Oh, interesting. Considering
potentially.
Has he been involved in the film and TV side of things for?
I think it's more his minister, isn't it?
For us, so currently Templeman is the Minister of the Arts and Culture.
Used to do shows with David.
Yeah, I mean, we all appreciate the job that he did during the COVID lockdown, but I understand the need to take a break. But I'm already seeing the conspiracy theorists on Facebook platforms and other platforms talking about, why has he quit? You know, his lockdown that ruined Australia. I'm like, the rest of Australia was saying that sort of thing, and I'm sitting here going, in Western Australia, going, what ruined us? We're still walking around while you guys are all in lockdown.
That's right. I remember that. Remember that when we were all suffering down at the pub, having jars together. And
let's not talk about lockdown.
It was such a terrible time. The rest of the freedom-loving Eastern
sorry,
states.
got caught in one. It's
276 days over here. Woo!
Oh yeah.
That's okay. I had to stay away from things.
I tried to break you in, but it failed.
It was pretty bad at that time.
So super keen to potentially see what happens with things after the Premier resigns. Well, he's officially resigned, so his replacement. Who's his replacement?
Oh God, it was announced today, and I'm really overlooking
some dude from the Labour.
No.
So
woman.
I can just imagine what's left of the Liberals going, now's our chance.
Well,
we might double our vote, have 3 people in Parliament. So,
well, I'm sure there is hate comments coming in now, like this. Thanks, Frank. He was championing the film studio. I'm sure in terms of promotions, he was.
I think he would have, but I'm not sure if he would have initiated it.
Yeah. And do you think Mark McGowan will turn up as an anti-hero in something like that? I'm more
likely an anti-hero in Blinky Bill or something, depending on who's writing it.
Maybe.
So
I just let the guy retire and enjoy.
He looked wrecked on television. I was surprised.
35 years in politics in WA, and it's been a rough few years. I don't blame him for wanting to step down. So how it affects us, I have no idea.
Yeah.
No idea whatsoever.
I'd like to think the continuity is going to go, but we just don't know.
Appearing as a villain in Bluey, maybe.
Bluey has villains?
Mark McGowan in Bluey, yeah. but Bluey is set in the eastern states anyway, so.
Well, they're set in Queensland, the other, the deep north, not the deep west.
Yes, south of the equator, Texas, as I call it. Yeah.
Joe Country.
Yes.
Very
cool. Well, we should wrap it up because we are rambling right now, and want to thank our special guest Amber Stacey for talking about her film, and we'll post links to your your funding support for traveling over to the US, and super excited to see where you go with it, and super excited to see it on the big screen. So
I'm excited to see it in practice. It hasn't had an Australian premiere yet. So.
We'll have to remedy that one.
Well, we're putting it out there, so
Thank you.
and everyone will be able to see it. So
it's an awesome development, Amber. Well done. Congratulations. Now we just got to get you out there.
Thank you. And thanks for having me.
So in terms of wrapping up for the evening, I'm going to say goodbye from my words is gone. Goodbye from
Try again. Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from him. So there you go. 2 Ronnies channeling.
Thanks. And we'll see you next month, where we'll be talking about. We haven't decided yet what we're talking.
We haven't.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we should.
We
do
could
Ralph Bakshi.
Yeah, that. Perhaps we should revisit times when
we've got to be really careful, because we're skewing very, very early Gen X stuff, and the kiddies, we kind of want the kiddies to watch.
Well, maybe we should recap times that Disney was on the rocks.
I love it. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm there. Because I want to talk about the Black Cauldron. I definitely want to talk about
that's right.
Black Cauldron.
Ups and downs of Disney. It's had a few. This is. I mean, at the moment, I keep hearing everywhere that Disney's run out of steam. It's like, I kind of get that impression too. But it's not the first time they've been on the rocks.
Yeah, they'll come back. They do.
They do well. They're an institution in the States. If they weren't coming back, I think the federal government would bail them out. But
Florida, what would they do?
Well, let's see if they overplay their hand against Disney. But I'm pretty sure Disney's feeling the hit.
We're entering our cyberpunk future with that. Disney's corporate authority in Florida. But
and with that thought, we probably should wrap it up and say goodnight again.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Thank you very much.
Good night, all. Catch you later. Bye. Jazz hands.